I already got my new outer wheel well, real house for this. I made it up, it looks good. I just, if you guys are starting to do a build like this, if you ever do a build like this, my suggestion to you is to, and this is pretty, you know, I'm no artist by any means, I just scribbled this in, but that's the trunk. Gives you the 13 3/8 from the package tray to this, and you can see there I've got the, sorry about the background noise, I got my little girl, this she's gonna be with me all day, or all week actually. So I got 13 and 23/32. So what I made a mistake yesterday is I put my rockers on and tried to get them all lined up and fitted up and everything, and was trying to get this floor in like it needs to be, and get that gap cinched down and the whole deal. Well, where I screwed up was this car moves independent, the body moves independently up and down obviously, and then this can roll out. Well, to get these in and set up, I have to bring these down to a certain point. But when I do, this wedges, and then I have to literally push the car down on it to get it to drop. When I did that, I was dropping this. Well, I didn't think about the back end not being supported at all. There's no stop back there. If I kept going down, the package tray would sit on the trunk. So actually it wouldn't. Those braces right there would stop on the floor. So it wouldn't, it would. And what I had basically is had that almost all the way down to the floor, which is not where that's supposed to be. So good thing for me, I measured out the distance between the trunk and the package tray. That way I can make sure all that's right, because I was having a hard time getting the floor and the rockers to line up right because the ass end of the car was too low. Well, I went back to my notes, and I've got notes on every, you know, from this bar to the rockers and just all over the place. You know, I did this number from here to here, and you know, to get all this right. So before you tear your car apart, and you know, mine was wrecked, so some of it could have been a little off, but I just have to adjust for that. But before you tear your car apart to this level, I would highly suggest going and get you a notebook and go around the whole car and just take measurements of everything. I've literally taken measurements from the rocker to up here, and I've got it marked in the book where I measured down from. That way I know how far everything is apart from here, this distance, all the way back to that. So when I put this back in, I'll know exactly where it needs to go. Just everything. Because not realizing 1/8 of an inch can make a huge difference on, and you wouldn't think so. You'd be like, not really. This, you know, no, it does. At least in my experience, 1/8 of an inch can throw something off up here pretty far going a long distance. But so anyway, I thought I'd share that with you. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm adjusting the car, and it needs to come up a little bit, which now that I've got that out, I can go ahead and bump it up a little bit and see if we can't get it to alright, and we're going for 13 3/8. That shit off on me. This is a cool little deal if I hadn't showed you this. Okay, that's 14 inches, so it went too high. I gotta come back down. But yeah, this keeps you from having to try to run a tape up, you know what I mean? That just seems like a pain in the ass to me, to work by yourself. And you know, if I need to say how far is it from here to the firewall up front, well, it tells me it's 7, like, yeah, I can't see it from here, but 7 foot 7 inches, I think is what it's saying. So yeah, I don't have to, you know, from here to here, I can just, or anywhere through here, and it repeats 14 inches. So I got to come down to 13 3/8, so that's what I'm going to work on. Alright, now we're money. 13 3/8. You can buy an upgraded one of these, just the one higher than this, which I wish I'd have done, but I didn't. And it goes, like this one goes in feet. You can see it's, you know, 1 foot 1 inch and 3/8. Well, this one will go in inches, which would be way better for me on this, instead of having to try to convert feet to inches all the time, which isn't a big deal, but it's just one more thing I have to do. But Anyway, the one above this one does that. So if you buy one of these, get the one that already converts it for you. So, but yeah, that's where this is supposed to be. So now I'm going to go ahead and put all this back together, get it fitted in, get these rockers lined up like they're supposed to be. You see my bubbles right where it's supposed to be. I'm going to measure all these distances. Oh yeah, it'll freeze that if you hit it again. Let's see what I want to do here. There it goes. So yeah, so here this needs to be 8 1/8. So I can put it under there, and it shows me that it's here. Let me go this direction. 7 3/4 inch. So this actually has to go down a little bit more to make this exactly where it needs to be. And again, it beats the hell out of it for me to try to run this down and sit and get, I mean, this is seems to be pretty accurate. Alright, I've got a boatload of stuff done today, although it doesn't really look like it. I got this firewall all in, lined up, bolted down. No gaps. Fantastic. So then I decided to really work on these rockers. I've got the rest of this stuff. I had this together. I started pulling it apart because I wanted to work on these rockers. And I wanted to get them perfectly level. And then if you remember, as I went through, I did that number there, and then I also wrote it up there, 8 1/8 from the bottom of this, so I can set this here, and it's 8 1/8. So I know I've got it up and down right. It's level, and this is set in right with the inner rocker. I've measured this bolt hole in here, which you can't really see, but there it is there, to the back of this. It's 26 and 7/16, which I wrote down. So this rocker is where it needs to be, where it needs to live. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a couple of bolts in it like I did up front, just to hold it. Then I'm going to take this and do the same thing to the other side. I'm going to take this rocker all apart completely, sandblast the inside of it, epoxy it, put weld through on the flanges, and I'm going to weld it together. Then when I put it in here, I won't have to fight with it's actually 3 pieces because I got that piece in there too. But yeah, I only have to mess with the one piece. Slide it up in there. I went ahead and got everything set the way it needs to stay. This flange here is freaking beautiful. The gaps, there's no gaps. It's nice and tight. That thing pulled down is going to fit right. I am extremely confident that this rocker is exactly where it needs to be. Before I pulled the car apart, I measured from here to that lip, and it was 4 inches. That's exactly 4 inches. So I'm as far forward as I need to be. I'll have to pull these flanges inside here down to get to these holes. But other than that, that's no biggie. I can probably take a hook or something or bend them down before I actually push them up in there and get them a little closer. Then I'll have to figure out a way to pull them tight. Maybe I may have to use a screw or a self-tapper screw. I don't know. I'll just have to find out. But yeah, all these are all hooked up, lined up good. This needs to come down just a tad. But yeah, a lot of progress today. Got the floor where it needs to be, where it needs to live. I don't even know what all. But the car is sitting like it's supposed to. And I got to do this to the other rocker. And then once I get these pilot holes drilled where they need to be, for my pins, then they're coming apart. Also, I decided when I take this back apart, I'm going to go ahead and blast the rust out of that inner brace that's across the trunk pan, get it all done. Try to get some of those little loose things done and get them kind of, you know, set in place and finaled up to where all I have to do is just drop the pan in, you know, just kind of put it together. And again, having these pins will help me put it right back to where it needs to be, or where it's going to stay. So, real happy with this setup right here. And like I said, I'm going to go ahead and drill some holes in this, get it set up. All that's fitting nice back there. Got that tub in, fitting pretty nice. So, yeah, that's about it for today. It's getting dark. It's almost, I got to go feed my wife. It's 8 o'clock. She's probably texting me. It's getting darker later because the time change here in the States. So it's almost 8 o'clock, so you get more daylight. And, oh, this is another thing. I've kept all my parts. I didn't throw any of them away. And so I came back out on this old trunk pan, and I didn't take these inner rockers off. I left them for reference. So when I ripped the outward side ones off, I just cut it in the front, cut it in the back, and left these rockers attached. That way I can go from these points like this, where that bolt is, up to the front, measure up. I actually come off the floor pan here, put a square straight across to here, and then measured up how far it needed to be, so I could line the inner rockers up with the floor pans exactly where they need to be, according to the original part. So, yeah. House starting to look like a junkyard out here, but it kind of is what it is. My neighbors probably want to shoot me if they come in the backyard. Of course, they come in the backyard, I'm going to want to shoot them. So, alright, that's going to be it for tonight. Still got baby girl out here with me watching TV. She's probably ready to go in the house. So, you guys have a good evening, and I'll talk to you the day after tomorrow.